Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and I can say that we're on track for a great episode tonight because we're going to have a whole episode on track. We're going to have Eloy Serrano Borrego from Greyhound men's track and field. We're going to have Vivica Addison from Greyhound women's track and field. I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. It shows how high our expectations are for rodeo that we can say a disappointing finish for the Greyhound men and women last weekend as they only finished in fourth place. For the Greyhound softball team, they were playing the number one team in the nation, West Texas A&M, lost the first game by a few. Second game, they only lost to the number one team in the nation by 1 run. And Greyhound baseball, first time all season long they've won a series. They went 3-1 against Oklahoma Christian. Well, that has been your Eastern recap, so we'll clear this out and we'll bring on our first guest right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and a privilege to bring to the set of Sportslook one of the standouts for Greyhound track and field, Eloy Serrano Borrego. And Eloy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, first question, where are you from?
I'm from Spain. I'm from a little town in the middle of the country, close to Madrid, to the capital. It's called Talavera la Reina.
Very good. And was track your only sport growing up, or did you play other sports and then track became your sport of choice?
When I was more like a kid, I used to play also soccer because it's like a sport that in my country almost all the kids do. And then I started doing track because of my father, he used to do like track, and he still do it. And I found it good, and I think I could be good in that sport. So I just stopped with soccer, and since I'm like 9, I only do track.
In the United States, there are school sports that young people are associated with. In Europe, it's in a lot of sports, it's like club sports or things of that nature. How did track work in Spain?
It's not like here because it's like you say, here is more like you run for your school. But in Spain, you run like for your club. So when you are a kid, you just join a club. Normally, you join a club of your city, and you are run for your club. And then like for the meets and all, you just like represent them. And for the national championships and all, you just represent them. You don't but you also represent yourself.
So I'm curious, how good were you on a national level in Spain?
Since I'm a kid, I would say I'm like the top of my nation. Like you start going to national championships when you are 13. And since I'm 13, I went like all the years to the national championships and all the years like top 10 of my country. I would say I'm in there. I will never be like the first of my country. I would like to be, and that's the goal of this year. But I'm always like there in the top 10.
So I'm curious. Unfortunately, I don't know all that much about track in Spain, but who would you say is the greatest track athlete from your country?
Nowadays, I would say it's Mohamed Atawi, that he also do like the same event than me, and nowadays he's amazing. Yeah, I would say him.
Was there a figure from Spain's past that everybody felt like? In the United States, in track and field, we point to like Carl Lewis or somebody like that. Who's the greatest figure ever from Spain?
For me, I would say Fermín Cacho. That is like, he's a guy that was Olympic champion, and I would say like he's like the main figure of track in Spain.
In track, there are of course what we call the sprints, and then there is middle distance, and then there's long distance. Did you try them all, or were you just kind of one race was going to be your race right from the beginning?
Yeah, in Spain, it's kind of like here also when you are like in high school, when you are younger, just try like all the disciplines, all the events to see what you're better in. But I didn't like specify too much in one event. I just always focused a lot in mid distance because I know it was like the event that I was good. But yeah, when I was a kid, I used to do throws. I did like javelin and I did a long jump, but I wasn't good enough. I was way better in mid distance.
Well, you're obviously quite good at middle distance, but how did you come to the attention of Coach Harden?
Uh, Actually, it was Coach Key, the one that's reached me out. It was more that like in Europe or at least my country, you just work with an agency and they find you like colleges that want you here and you will like be good for them. So they are like give me the phone number of Coach Key and we start like talking and like she was like asking for my work as an in Spain and we are like I told her that I want to came here because I see that the program is like a good program for track. It's a competitive team, and also yeah, it was just like that.
Did you consider any other American universities before you selected Eastern?
I had a couple of offers more, but I think like the best one was this one because of the location that is in altitude. That for mid distance track athletes are is so good altitude, and also like the location for the meets and all. I think is so good, and the program is so good. Like it's a good level here.
Spain is a beautiful country and it has many different types of terrains and many different elevations. So where you grew up, were you at like, we'll translate it into meters, were you at like 1,000 meters above sea level or were you closer to sea
No,
level?
I'm in the middle of the country, but the altitude of where I live is not that high. In feet is like 600 feet, so it's way lower than what it is here.
A little bit of an adjustment when you got to Portales, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah. It was kind of difficult the first month, like breathing and all. I was like having problems because I've never been like this big altitude. But now that I'm a youth, I feel so good. And when we go like to see the level to run, I feel amazing.
Oh, it's going to give you a tremendous advantage.
Yeah, yeah.
So talk about your adjustment to college life in the United States. What's been the biggest adjustment, not just in terms of going from one nation to another, but going to college level classes here in the United States?
I would say the bigger thing was like the language, because I think I didn't came here with enough good level of English that I wanted to. But now, like, as soon as you came here and like 2 or 3 weeks, you get used to the language and you get used to like talk with other people. For example, the beginning was for me difficult to understand Coach Key in some practices and all, but now it's all good. And also like the competitive that is here, like all the track meets and all, it's not like in Spain because in Spain you go to track meets and maybe they don't take it like that serious that they take it here because here all the meets are like so serious. You have to give your 100% in all, and yeah, it's not the same like feeling.
Yeah, if you were looking for a high level of competition, this is definitely a good conference to be in. And let's talk about your experience so far. You had really, I believe you actually have won a meet in the 800 so far.
Yeah, I actually won conference indoor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I didn't get nationals for less than a second, but yeah, and now we are still like in now we are in outdoor season. I'm in a good spot in outdoor season conference and all, so I think it's gonna be a good outdoor season.
To run an 800, you have to be able to run a decent pace, but there are some people who try to pace their 400 meters and their second 400 meters about the same. There are others who just rely on a blazing kick at the end. Are you more of a pace 800 runner, or do you have that really good kick at the end?
I will say that for me, I can do both because, like I told you, I used to went to so many Spanish championships and also I know how to run like tactical races with a kick in the end, and I also how to know like how to pace a 800. So I think I have that experience enough to run both. But I would say like my best thing is like my kick in the last 200 meters is good.
So when you won the indoor Lone Star Conference championship, what time did you run?
Around 151.80. It wasn't like a good time that Coach Key and me we were practicing for. We know we could run way faster, but we just decided to like wait in the back and kick in the last 200, and that's what I did, and it went good.
For people that have run track and field, this is going to be an obvious question, but for people who've never run track and field, what's the difference between running indoor meets as opposed to outdoor meets?
For me, it's not all better in outdoor because normally people just say that it's all better in outdoor. Obviously, it's better because you do less laps because in indoor like the tracks are shorter and you have like less curves. But also the good thing that you have in indoor is that you don't have to care about the climate because in outdoor you always have to care about the climate if it's rainy, if it's windy, if it's so hot. So yeah, it's a big difference between both. But I would say I would like way more outdoor than indoor.
We've talked about you as an athlete. Let's talk a little bit about it as a student. What are you majoring in and what do you hope to do?
I'm majoring in physical education, and my goal is try to be a pro athlete if I don't achieve it. My goal will be a track coach because since I'm a kid, the thing that I like the most is track, and I will love to spend all my life related to track.
International students have to take a certain number of classes in person, but they also get to take a couple of online classes. Which do you prefer?
I would say in-person classes are better for us because like at the beginning, like I'm a freshman right now, we kind of have a little bit of problems with the language. So I think in person you can have like a better feeling with the teacher and all. But I also like online classes. It's just different.
So, what's your favorite class this semester?
I would say your class. Yeah.
I was hoping you'd say that, but
Yeah.
sometimes student athletes surprise me. Well, Eloy, congratulations on the success you've had so far, and best of luck the rest of the season.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up our first interview segment. So we're going to clear the set, and we're going to bring in somebody from Greyhound Women's Track and Field right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and a privilege to bring to the set of Sportslook a female track and field athlete. We've got Vivica Addison, and Vivica, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Judging by your charming accent, I don't think you're probably from this part of the world. Where
No,
are you
please.
from?
I'm from Barbados.
So you're obviously very, very good at track and field, as we're going to talk about here in a couple of minutes. Was track and field, the throwing events, were they always what you did, or did you play other sports and just realize you were very good at throwing a javelin?
I did a mixture of a lot of sports. I actually started track and field from the age of 4, but while doing that, I also found a hobby in doing netball. And that took me a long way as well as track. I tried other stuff such as like basketball and volleyball, but they weren't really my strong suit. So then I just reverted to the track and field.
So who helped get you into track and field to begin with? Was it your parents or a friend, or how did that happen?
Honestly, sports, I would say, is like in my family from my mom's side and my dad's side. So it wasn't really like a force. I just grew up seeing it and I enjoyed it. So I actually wanted to try it. That's probably why I did such a mixture of anything. Yeah.
And with track and field, did you just immediately start throwing, or did you run as well as throw?
I actually started with running. Yeah.
So were you a sprinter or?
I did some of everything, honestly, from the from young, I was just running like sprints, and then I branched off into like distance. Then I went back to middle distance. I even did hurdles. I did high jump. I did almost everything. Yeah.
You could be a very good decathlete.
Oh.
So here in the United States, and this is the same question I asked Eloy during the first segment, here in the United States, people do their sports through schools.
Yeah.
How does it work in Barbados?
It's kind of similar. We do schools and we also do track and field clubs. So majority of, I would say, the involvement of athletes being in sports is first from their school. And that's when coaches then notice like talent and stuff. You should join my club. And they're all like reaching out. And you compete for the school, but then at outside track meets, you also compete for your club. So it's a mixture of both. Yeah.
And how were you introduced to the javelin throw?
Well, it was not planned. In my country, we do like school sports. So since I was doing everything, I was like, okay, let me just try the javelin, try the shot put, try this. And I did the javelin, and the coach at the school that time, he was then like, do you want to qualify for the Carifta Games? I was like, huh? And he said, yes, if you come and train with me, I could guarantee you that you will throw far enough and you will be representing the country in no time. And I was like, well, then, okay. I started, and that's basically where my javelin journey began.
So at what age did you have your first international competition where you weren't just competing against kids from Barbados?
At the age of 13, but it actually wasn't for javelin. It was for a multi-event. And I competed in the under 15 category. It's a tournament called NACAT multi-event for under 13s and under 15 individuals. So,
And where was that competition held?
that was held in Trinidad and Tobago.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I presume that to begin with, when you did compete outside Barbados, it was probably against other countries in the
Yes,
Caribbean.
please. Yes.
When did you get your first exposure to competing against Americans?
I would say around the age of 10, because the track club that I was in, they would take us to Canada every summer. And that's where that's where my first international meet was. And that was running at that point. Yeah.
So what was your impression of leaving the Caribbean and going to a place where you couldn't just look out and see the ocean?
Well, what should I say? In my country, sports is like big. So growing up, everybody's like, well, you have to get a track and field scholarship. You need to go represent the country. So it was almost like embedded in my head that I would be so good or good enough to get myself out of the Caribbean and get that experience in a different country.
And I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that I don't know the answer to this off the top of my head, but who's the track and field hero in Barbados? If you had to name one athlete from the past, who's the best?
In my eyes, I would say as a young athlete, I would say Sade Williams. She is a middle distance athlete. She's pretty good, I would say. 200 meters, 400s. And right now she is continuously progressing. And I really like watching her. Yeah.
And you talked about the fact that athletics is in your blood. So what sports was your family good at?
Volleyball, soccer, and also track and field. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about making the adjustment to the United States. First, how did you end up at Eastern New Mexico University?
Well, first I was at a junior college. So, I mean, we have no choice but to transfer after the sophomore year. And while reaching out to other schools and coaches also contacting me, I did my own research as well. And I then ran into Coach Pitts, and he gave me like some good, I would say, encouragement. And he said like he could really help me and push me to do better, which he has done. So, I mean, that's how I actually found ENMU.
So what junior college were you at?
First, well, I've been at two. And the first one I was at was Western Texas College, just short there in Snyder. And then I transferred to Kansas at Cloud County Community College. Yeah.
And how many other schools did you consider coming out of junior college?
Quite a few.
Yeah. And you chose Eastern.
Yes,
Well,
I did.
I feel very proud. So let's talk about the adjustment culturally. What's the one thing you miss the most about Barbados?
I would say the food. Yes.
What's your fave?
Something called shepherd's pie and beef stew. Okay.
Very good. I am familiar with it.
Yes.
I was lucky as a young person that my parents took me to the Caribbean for a few
Yes. It's
vacations.
amazing.
I
Yeah.
can definitely see that. So what's been the thing that you've enjoyed most about the United States?
Honestly, I would say like the diversity of like I meet so many different people from all around the world. I learn different cultures, hear different languages. So I really like that. Yeah.
Who was the student athlete, or maybe just the student here at Eastern, that really helped you make the adjustment to life here in Portales?
Um, I can't give a name to someone, honestly. I could say my coach because he has really like told me, I mean, the ways to go about what's close by, where I should buy something from, like stuff like that. Yeah.
And you've obviously had a very successful season. If memory serves me, you
Yeah.
actually finished first in the first outdoor meet of the season.
Well, I actually came second, but it was close.
Close,
Yeah, it was
close, okay.
close. Yes.
Um, so have you gone into the season with an idea this is where you want to be at the end of the season, or are you just seeing how much you can improve?
No, I have a game plan. And honestly, it has started as I planned. The first meet, my intention was to hit approximately like 44 meters. I fell short just a little bit. I hit 43.30, but my end goal really and truly for the first meet was to hit the provisional mark,
Yes.
which I've done. And I feel like it's going to plan right now. Yeah.
And we will point out for people that aren't familiar with track and field that a provisional mark is one that on paper will qualify you for
Yes,
the
please.
outdoor championships.
Yes, please.
Obviously, throwing the javelin, you've got to be strong.
Yeah.
But there are other things that go into it. There's technique and there's the mental aspect of it. If you had to say that you're particularly good in one thing, are you strong? Are you good technique? Or are you mentally strong, or a combination of all?
I would say I have my technique probably has the advantage over my strength. And I feel like that's what really gets me where I'm at right now.
Is there any difference in competing in a meet where there are a lot of schools as opposed to a smaller meet, or is it just pretty much you prepare from the same way?
It depends on the individual. For me, I don't really go to compete against a person. So a smaller meet, I don't mind because it allows me much more throws. As the competition goes, you get 3 throws, and then the top 9 advance to the final, and you get an additional 3. Whereas if there's a big meet, the chances are like less likely. So that's just it.
I understand. Let's talk about you as a student. What are you majoring in?
Accounting.
And what do you hope to work for an accounting firm, or do you hope to be your own business?
Honestly, right now, my next plan is to go pursue my master's so I could become a CPA, which is a certified public accountant, and then see where that takes me from there.
Would you like to go back to Barbados, or do you like life in the States?
I'm not quite sure as yet. Yes.
And real quickly, we've got about a minute left. What's
Okay.
been your favorite class at Eastern so far?
Ooh, I would say probably managerial finance. Yes.
Very good. Well, Vivica, congratulations on the start to the outdoor season you've had. Continued good luck, and I hope that you do get to the outdoor championships.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up the interview segment of Sportslook. So what we'll do is we'll close the set, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. Since we're getting ready to crown a national champion in men's basketball, let's talk about an individual who is a two-time national champion, a guy by the name of Bill Russell. He had the University of San Francisco in the championships 2 years in a row. They won both of them. Bill went on to have a great career with the Boston Celtics, and he became a person who was used in advertising during the 1970s, most famously a commercial for AT&T, where he was on a basketball court and he was supposed to shoot a basket he was supposed to miss, and he was supposed to say, well, I can miss, but AT&T can't miss. But Bill Russell didn't win 2 national championships, an Olympic gold medal, and 8 NBA championships without being competitive. And so, completely off script, he made the basket, then turned to the camera and said, I can't miss, and neither can you with AT&T. And then he walked off the set. So that's a gamesmanship move on the part of Bill Russell. Well, that will wrap up in overtime. That will wrap up an episode of Sportslook. I'd like to thank my guests, Eloy Serrano Borrego from track and field, and also Vivica Addison from track and field. Had a floor crew directed once again by Ms. Jasmine. So for all those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.